Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Radio up until 1950, the very early 1950s, was still an absolute live medium. As such, you did not have summer reruns. The shows ran 39 weeks, then took 13 weeks off. One of those shows that did that was the Jack Benny program. Well, this edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we're going to bring you a first episode of a summer replacement series for the Jack Benny Show. It was also hosted by Jack Parr, that is. Most of you know Jack Parr from his time as the host of The Tonight Show, although it did get renamed The Jack Parr Show for much of the run. I think he ran 8 years on television. I'll look that up while you listen to this first portion of the first episode of the summer replacement for Jack Benny, the Jack Parr program, June 1st, 1947.
From Hollywood, the Jack Parr program with songs by Trudy Irwin, the Page Cavanaugh Trio, Jerry Fielding in the orchestra, yours truly, Hi Averback, and starring America's newest comedy personality, Jack Parr.
Thank you. This is Jack Parr. Well, we're a little late, so good night, folks. I don't get it either, but everybody says it, and it always gets a big hand. I don't know. Well, how do you like the show so far? In case any of you are disappointed, remember, 17 more weeks till Jack Benny. Now, for those of you who have their hats on and are starting up the aisle, may I say that I'm not new in radio. I started many years ago as an announcer. But I get tired of saying things like, the program that was recorded at an earlier hour to be played at this time will not be heard because some jerk fell down and broke the record. And for a while, I worked on those daytime serial stories. This one was called Love Came to Her Once, but Wham. I played the part of Wham. So you see, I'm well prepared to do this job. Of course, I'm in a little different situation than most comedians. I haven't enough money to hire 14 gag writers like Bob Hope. I saw Hope and his writers coming out of his office one day. It looked like recess at UCLA. There's one thing I'd like to explain. We're not going to give anything away on this program. This is not the Pot of Gold or the show they call Answer It or You're a Schnook. If your telephone rings while we're on the air, it just means one thing: your phone bill is paid. I may get funnier later on, but I doubt it. And oh, yes... And oh, yes, this is a non-profit show. All the money we make tonight is going to a worthy charity. It's being sent to Washington for the underprivileged Democratic children. P.S. The management has asked me to announce that immediately after this program, there will be entertainment. Now, friends, as a special added feature of our show, Al Jolson will positively not appear as a guest star tonight. Revolutionary, isn't it? Incidentally, how about that guest star situation in radio? Every show you hear has a guest, and always the same ones. Are they interchangeable like plumbing fixtures? Is Ford turning them out? If so, will General Motors meet the challenge and turn out a convertible guest star? First, he's Sidney Greenstreet, then you turn him inside out, and he's Luella Parsons. Really, the whole guest star idea is becoming overworked, abused, and Costello. It's, It's getting so that even the guest stars have guest stars. But the thing that impresses me is the false enthusiasm of guest appearances. You know what I mean. There's a knock on the door opens, and the comedian says, "Why, it's Kate Kaiser. What a surprise." What's the price? They've been rehearsing for 12 hours, and believe me, they're sick of each other by now, you see. Have you ever wondered what the guest star and the comedian really think when they stand up there and compliment each other? What do you suppose is going on in their minds? What are they saying to themselves? It would be interesting to find out, wouldn't it?
And now, ladies and gentlemen, our guest star, Dennis Day.
Thank you. Hello, Jack. Gosh, it's certainly great being here. What's great about it? On a nice Sunday like this, me and my mother could be out with a girl.
And Dennis, it's certainly great having you here. What's great about it? For what I'm paying him, I could have my choice of any two of the Andrews sisters in a corned beef sandwich.
Thank you, Jack. And did I tell you certainly look wonderful? You're the picture of health. How long can he last? Gee, I wonder if I can take over his show after the funeral.
It's very kind of you to say so, Dennis. But you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say that you look the picture of health. I'd swear the kid has rickets.
Say, tell me, Jack, how do you like having your own show?
It's wonderful, Dennis. I just hope I can be as successful as you've been this year.
Oh, I'm sure you will be, Jack.
But, Dennis, do you realize what you've accomplished? You're on a Jack Benny show, the star of your own show, great guest appearances, record albums, everything.
Well, believe me, Jack, with the right breaks, plenty of other performers could have done the same thing. Oh. Dennis Day, I dare you to name one.
Oh, now, Dennis, you're much too modest. Modest, the kid's got 2 programs already, and he's still punching. If he could find the right girdle, he'd try to be John's other wife.
Oh, by the way, Jack, is there anything I can do to get your show off to a good start? I hope he asked me to sing Glockamora. I do it great. To hear me, you think I was a native Glockamoran.
Well, it would be nice if you'd sing one of those Irish songs you're so famous for. If he sings Glockamora again, I'll blow my brains out.
I'd love to sing an Irish song, Jack. After all, I can't deny that I'm a son of old Ireland. If he only knew I'm really an Armenian.
What's it going to be, Dennis? I'm praying it's not Glockamora.
How about Glockamora?
My favorite number! I'd be a sucker to let him sing. He'd make me look about as important as Margaret Truman's piano player. Say, Dennis, I've got a great idea. You and I will sing Glockamora as a duet.
A duet? That is a great idea, Jack. How do you like this schmo trying to horn in on me? One song with him and my hooper will be dragging. Me. Me. Uh-oh, I've got a frog in my throat, Jack.
Oh, a frog in your throat. Oh, that's too bad. A frog. He should have Morton Downey in his throat.
Sorry, we can't sing the duet, Jack. The old throat just closed up on me.
Well, I guess we'll have to do something else. I know. We'll tell some jokes, and you will be the straight man.
Me, the straight man? Me? Me? Me. The old throat just opened up on me. I think I can sing now. How are things in Glockamora?
Wait a minute.
Is that little brook still leaping
Hold
there?
it, kid.
Does it still run down?
Look, Dennis.
Sunny cold.
Please, look.
Killy Bay,
Look, kid.
Kilkerry
Look, Dennis, wait a minute.
There. How are
Wait a
things
minute.
in Glockamora?
Wait a minute!
Yes, please.
Thank you and good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Day appeared with us tonight through the courtesy of his sponsor.
Sponsor. Dennis Day appeared with us tonight through the courtesy of money.
June 1st, 1947, Jack Parr on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. If you're my age or a little older, you remember when Jack Parr walked off The Tonight Show. He already had a reputation of being a spoiled kid. Jack Parr was gifted this summer replacement show by Jack Benny. And he was a pretty good hit, so American Tobacco kept him on the air, moving him to ABC for the fall season. Parr later refused American Tobacco's suggestion that he come up with a weekly running gag or gimmick, saying he, and we're quoting here, wanted to get away from that kind of old hat humor, the kind being practiced by Jack Benny and Fred Allen. Well, American Tobacco did not like their cash cow being referred to in that manner, and so he was canned. And yet, later on, and you hear in this show, he imitates some of Benny's mannerisms. And I was going to look, he started with the Tonight Show in 1957 and ran through 1962, at which time, following a brief interval, you saw a new fella by the name of Carson. First name Johnny. Alrighty, we go back to June 1st, 1947, the Jack Parr Show on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
I was looking through a magazine the other day called Unpopular Mechanics, and do you know that there are 5,006,083 fountain pens that ride underwater? Most of which are on their way back to the factory. Everybody I knew had a fountain pen that rode under something. Kaiser had a pen that rode under Fraser. Why, they even had an underwater fountain pen for children. The kids could do their homework and drown cats at the same time. And many radio comedians, you should excuse the expression, had a field day. Eddie Cantor did so many underwater jokes that he got a fan letter from a mackerel. It was becoming a terrible situation. What I'd like to know is who's responsible? Who started all this? Who's to blame?
Well, I guess I am.
Aren't you wearing your water on the knee a little high?
Well, I live underwater.
Underwater?
Yes, I couldn't find any other place to live.
Well, you probably paid quite a bonus to an octopus, I imagine. It must be terribly unhealthy down there.
I'm not long for this world.
Tell me something. Is it true about those beautiful mermaids? Get a date for me and we'll go drowning together sometime. What I'd like to know is, how did you come to invent the fountain pen that writes underwater?
Well, I told you I live underwater in a submarine.
But it's dry inside a submarine.
I know, but I like to write letters on the front porch.
Last week, I decided to go to the movies, so I got a GI loan and bought a ticket. Inside, I paid 10 cents for a nickel candy bar, was insulted by two ushers, and finally got a seat next to a lady who was plucking a chicken by the light of the Movie-Tone News. The picture I saw was a British-made movie about an average American family, Laurence Olivier and Henry Aldrich V. Friends, you may not realize it, but the British have made American musicals, American comedies, and even gangster pictures. What's behind all this? Can this be England's revenge for Bunker Hill? What if the British should decide to make our Western pictures? Can you imagine C. Aubrey Smith strumming a guitar and singing There'll Always Be a Wyoming? Or Sir Cedric Hardwicke rescuing Dame May Whitty, the beautiful Mexican half-breed? You know, I shudder to think of what the English version of Duel in the Sun might be like.
Parliament Pictures presents a saga of the American West entitled Disagreement in the Shade. The cast of characters, in order of their disappearance, Sir Arthur Witherspoon in the role of Texas Jack Parr. The Dame Cynthia Duff Armstrong appears as Cactus Nil. And by special arrangement with the Abbey Players, the Right Honorable J. Wembley Hollingshead in the role of Smelly Pete. And introducing Parliament Pictures' new star, Reginald, the Wonder Horse.
Full credit is given to Antoine of Paris, who created Reginald's upswept tail do.
And now, for Disagreement in the Shade.
It's a beastly hot day at the Bar Cheerio Ranch. Located in Arizona, one of His Majesty's last outposts. The film begins as Texas Jack, our ruthless and yet beloved co-hand, rides up to the ranch on Reginald, the Wonder Horse.
Whoa there, Reginald. I say do whoa, won't you? Stout horse, Reginald. Stout horse. Hello, is anyone about?
Texas Jack, darling, you've come home at last.
Yes, Cactus Nil, and I've missed you, my sweet. I've been singing and riding 30 hard days on the range.
Oh, how dreadful.
Yes, frankly, there's very little zip left in my doodah.
Darling, you've been away nearly a fortnight, and I've just noticed that you're bow-legged clear up to the part in your hair.
Yes, I am bow-legged, but it's most convenient for letting the covered wagons go through. Tell me, my dear, what has transpired while I've been out gadding about the gulches?
Well, in your absence, Pater employed a new foreman for the ranch. A completely horrible hombre. His name is Smelly Pete.
Smelly Pete? I don't know any Smelly Petes.
No, he's a blackguard and a murderer. And I have reason to believe that Smelly Pete has murdered Sheriff Cavendish.
That's quite impossible. I spoke to Sheriff Cavendish only an hour ago.
Did he answer you?
And come to think of it, no.
Well, there you are. In a word, Tex, this cringing coyote, Smelly Pete, has become a nemesis on these premises.
Nell, dear, what you've told me is utterly appalling. Let me take you away from all this, pack up and fly with me to Montana.
Montana?
Yes, it's just outside Boston. Nell, you must be my wife. You simply must.
Impossible, Tex. Forget me.
I can't forget you, Nell. You're with me wherever I go. Wherever I go, you're with me. Walking, riding, golfing. Of course, when I go to the YMCA, I must leave you outside. Say you will. Say it.
Oh, you're not being practical, Tex. How would we live?
I've thought of that. We'll make our living by raising cactus.
Oh, is there a demand for cactus?
Demand? Why, at this very moment on the New York Stock Exchange, cactus is selling for 50 cents a cac.
Oh, darling, you're so resourceful.
Nell, my dear, I love you more than life itself, and allow me to assure you that Reginald, my wonder horse, shares my admiration. Don't you, Reginald?
Righto, Governor.
Oh, how utterly quaint. Oh, darling, nothing would give me more lasting satisfaction than to become Mrs. Texas Jack. But Pater has promised me to the new foreman.
You mean?
Yes. I'm afraid I'm doomed to become Mrs. Smelly Pete.
This is an intolerable situation. If I can't have you, I shall go out and drown myself in the well.
But the well is dry.
Then some other time, perhaps. But I shan't lose you so easily. I'll seek out this Smelly Pete person and force him to give you up.
Oh, you may well have your chance. Look, he's coming this way.
Splendid, I'm ready.
I must warn you, Tex. He's a vicious brute, capable of violence and murder.
Hello there, chaps. Anyone for tennis?
Texas Jack, allow me to present Smelly Pete.
How'd you do?
How'd you do, partner? I understand you're something of a cad. You've stolen 50,000 head of cattle and brutally murdered the sheriff, all of which is decidedly illegal.
Well, aren't you the goody-goody?
June 1st, 1947, The Jack Parr Show. You can tell there was not a huge writing staff on this show. And it shows that some of the sketches are just a little thin, but you do get a laugh out of them. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion of the Jack Parr program from June 1st, 1947 follows these messages from your favorite station. Just going to take a minute here to tell you about the big savings going on now, the clearance sale at mypillow.com. And you know, I've talked about how in my office I have a pair of my slippers, and they're really comfortable, and they're on clearance right now. The mypillow.com slippers, $25 a pair, limit 10. And I would buy 3 or 4 more pairs. Unfortunately, they're out of my size. They also have sheets, pillowcases, clothing items, all on special right now. Go to mypillow.com, click on the clearance tab at the top of the page, use my promo code Wyatt, or call 1-800-928-4715. Limited sizes remaining in the MyPillow slippers, limited colors on other items. mypillow.com, clearance tab, promo code Wyatt, 1-800-928-4715. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. One other note about Jack Parr being on The Tonight Show. He was having difficulty putting on an hour and 45-minute show 5 nights a week. They gave guest hosts on Monday night. Friday nights were repeats. But it was still a very difficult load to do. I know that if I had to do an hour and 45-minute television show 5 days a week, I would be pulling what little hair out I have left. Now, the conclusion of the Jack Parr program, the summer replacement series for Jack Benny from June 1st, 1947.
And furthermore, I suspect that you're trying to marry Neil only to get your hands on her cattle.
Sir, do you accuse me of courting a woman purely for her pot roast?
I do. In view of the circumstances, I fear we shall have to shoot it out.
Oh, very well. I'm prepared. Let's get on with it.
Oh, you two are so utterly masculine.
Let's get on with it. I'm due on the tennis courts in half an hour.
Fine, I shall drop my neckerchief, and we shall both fire at once.
Bully.
Here goes, then. I'm dropping the neckerchief.
Wait! That neckerchief, those colors, magenta and powder blue on a field of shocking pink.
What about them?
Those are the Oxford colors. Are you an Oxford man, ma'am?
Of course. Texas Jack, class of 29.
Smelly Pete, class of 28.
Heavens to Bevan. How stupid of me. I should have known, but I thought you were an Inja. You were an Inja, weren't you?
Oh, of course I was an Inja. But since I've moved to Arizona.
It's so frightfully good to see you again, Smelly.
Likewise, you old varmint. You must come to the bunkhouse for a spot of tiffin this afternoon. We have so much to talk about.
Gentlemen, aren't you forgetting that you're supposed to be killing yourselves over me?
Oh, drat, I'd clean forgot.
Oh, yes, we must do some shooting. After all, this is the West, where men are men and women are women.
Oh, yes, I believe we have the same arrangement in England.
Quite.
Well, do get on with it, you two. You have your pistols drawn.
All right, old girl. Smelly Pete, I shall count 3. Fire at will.
Got you, old boy.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Good heavens, man, you've shot the gal.
But I distinctly heard you say, fire at nil.
No, old boy. I said fire at will.
Really, my dear fellow, you should watch your diction.
Well, no matter. The joke's on me. Anyone for tennis?
Jack Parr appears through the courtesy of RKO Pictures. Again, next Sunday, the Jack Parr Show with Trudy Irwin, the Page Cavanaugh Trio, Jerry Fielding in the orchestra, and as our special guests, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, James Mason, Greer Garson, Cary Grant, the entire cast of The Best Years of Our Lives, and the Boston Symphony Orchestra.
Well, Hi Everback's a nice guy, but he's an awful liar. Good night, everybody.
You heard the mention of RKO Pictures. Yes, Jack Parr did appear in a few motion pictures. The MC in 1948's Variety Time. He was also, Footlight Varieties in 1951. The 1950 film Walk Softly Stranger starring Joseph Cotton. And in 1951 he played Marilyn Monroe's boyfriend in Love Nest. So there's a look at his film background in addition to his television background. Jack Parr, the Jack Parr program from June 1st, 1947, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, The Wind-Up, Part 5 of the 5-part Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story, The Reasonable Doubt Matter, originally broadcast on Friday, June 1st, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mrs. Gramley, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, good.
I understand you were trying to reach me.
I just told your nephew, Walter, that if he didn't have you on this phone within 3 minutes, I'd be out there at the ranch with a posse of police.
Oh, I'm afraid there's some mistake, Mr. Dollar. You see, I told Walter I didn't wish to talk with you.
You what?
I admire your persistence, young man, but...
Are you saying this of your own free will? You're not being forced?
How ridiculous.
Who's there with you?
Just my nephew, Walter, and his wife, Hilda. Sure,
I'm coming out there, Mrs. Gramley.
Mr. Dollar, you were sent out here from Hartford to investigate an insurance trust I was arranging for my granddaughter. Well, I've decided not to set up the trust, so there's no further reason to involve yourself in my affairs. Good night, Mr. Dollar.
Hello. Hello.
What have you got cooking with the Gramleys anyway, Mr.
Shut up, Nicky. Let me think.
Tonight, and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Special Investigator Johnny Dollar, location Las Vegas, Nevada. To the Home Office, Amercar Northern Trust Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Assignment, the matter of reasonable doubt. Expense account, final page. Item 12, 75 cents. I had a pint of black coffee sent in for Nikki Vernon, girlfriend of missing casino operator Deuce McCoy. She'd been overworking a bottle of scotch, and I figured the coffee would help clear the fumes. And it might have, if she'd drunk it.
No, take it away. I don't want any coffee.
I couldn't figure that phone call from Mrs. Gramley. She knew her nephew and his wife had been stealing from her. That's why she'd started to set up the trust to save the estate from them and turn it over to a young granddaughter, Susan. And she knew also, I told her, that Walter and his wife had probably contrived the auto accident that had killed Susan's parents. And yet now she seemed to have reversed her whole attitude. Maybe Jonas Parks had been right. Maybe there was a reasonable doubt as to her sanity. Maybe a lot of things. But all of the answers were out there at that ranch.
She's to blame for it. Things were all right with Deuce and me till she came messing around.
If it hadn't been Hilda, it would have been somebody else.
A whole lot you know about it.
Oh, why don't you drink some of that coffee, Nicky?
I don't want any coffee.
Okay, suit yourself. Go ahead and enjoy your broken heart, then. Kill the rest of that bottle if that's what you want. Cry up a storm. Live it up. Wallow in it.
I'll get that dame. It's the last thing I ever do.
For what? You ought to thank her for getting that rat off your neck.
What'd you have to turn him in for? Deuce never did anything to you.
He never had the chance.
Well, what's he supposed to have done that's so horrible?
It's more what he tried to do.
Oh, sure.
You happen to know young Susan Gramley?
Yeah, I've seen the kid. Why?
Well, your lover boy phoned her out at the ranch earlier this evening, disguised his voice, said he was a friend of mine. He tried to get her to meet him on the old Boulder Cutoff out in the middle of the desert.
If you think Deuce would try to date up a 16-year-old kid, you're crazy.
Nicky, I think he was going to kill a 16-year-old kid.
It's her fault. Hilda Gramley. She and her sneaky little henpecked husband got Deuce mixed up in something.
I don't imagine he was very hard to mix.
That dame's been asking for it for a long time.
Yeah, I know, and you're about ready to give it to her. Well, forget it. Sober up, find the nearest exit, and then run like the devil.
I want Deuce.
So do the police. And they're the ones who are going to get him. They're covering the airport now, the depot, all the highways. Vegas is a tough town to get away from. He hasn't got a chance.
It's just as much your husband's fault. Why didn't he keep her at home? Why didn't he...
Oh, for the love of... You keep on playing that same old record, you're going to wear a groove right through your brain.
Maybe so.
Now, look, I got things to do. Are you going to be all right here alone?
No, I'm just fine. I never felt better in my life.
Then you've already got it halfway made. So why don't you double up and get even? Try some of that coffee.
You're a real busy guy, Mr. Dollar. You put the finger on a man with one hand, and at the same time you try to sober up his girl with the other.
Sure. And if I had a broom, I'd sweep the office.
Well, then why don't you go be busy someplace else?
That's exactly the idea. All right, kid, you're on your own. Good luck, Nicky.
Good luck. Huh. What do you care what kind of luck I have?
Oh, I don't know. I picked up my car and drove out across the desert toward the Flint Rock Ranch. I couldn't quite imagine Mrs. Gramley being intimidated. The idea of Walter and Hilda standing over her, holding a gun at her head and making her say things against her will was pretty unbelievable. Faced with a threat like that, she'd probably say, shoot and be blasted. It just didn't make sense. Apparently, she really had reversed her field. But I had to hear it from her face to face.
Who is it?
Johnny Dollar, open up. I said open up.
What's the idea? Mrs. Gramley told you to stay away from here, didn't she?
I don't know. There was static in the phone. I want to hear her say it again. You don't
What do you
mind
think
if
you're
I'm
doing?
Coming in? All right, Walter, let's go talk to Mrs. Gramley.
Look, Dollar, you haven't got that much weight to throw around.
Suppose we get it straight right now and save a lot of time. I came out here to talk to Mrs. Gramley, and I'm going to talk to her. Now, if you want to go at it bare knuckle, let's get started. Or if you're thinking of that gun routine again, go ahead and pull it. I'm packing one myself. And if you're not going to make any kind of a move, then you just stand right there with your face hanging out while I go on in and talk.
What's going on in here, Walter?
Good evening, Mrs. Gramley.
Dollar won't take no for an answer. He just forced his way in.
I'm glad to find you looking so well.
I thought I'd made myself clear on the phone, Mr. Dollar.
Really? Come on, let's go on into the living room where we can all be more comfortable.
Come back here. I must insist that you leave at once.
Who was at the door? What are you doing here?
Well, if it isn't Hilda, the lovely lady who likes money, gifts, and excitement. Fine. That's why I came out, to stir up a little excitement.
I think you're taking a good deal upon yourself, Mr. Dollar.
You know, I'm a little surprised at you, Mrs. Gramley. I thought you wanted me to follow the case through.
There is no case.
Oh, since when?
You heard what she said. That's what you came for. All right, now beat it.
Down, Walter. Mrs. Gramley, are you telling me you're going to drop this whole thing, let this pair here edge you out and Susan along with you and take the whole estate?
You can put any interpretation on it you like. Just as long as you leave this house at once, and please don't come back. You have no right to interfere.
And what about your son and his wife? Have you forgotten that those two leeches there killed them?
You're out of your mind.
Am I? What do you think, Mrs. Gramley? Am I out of my mind?
I'm afraid you are. My son and his wife were killed in an automobile accident. A terrible tragedy, but unavoidable.
Sure it was. After Walter and Hilda here set it up.
Will you please leave now?
Have they threatened you? Is that it? Are you scared to talk? Because if you are, speak up. I imagine I can handle them.
You're being quite ridiculous, Mr. Dollar. Will you now go, please?
It beats me. It really does. If I hadn't...
I'll answer it. Hello? Who?
If that's for me, you better let me take it. They know I'm here.
All right. Take it. Nobody's stopping you.
was Will Connors on the phone. He'd been keeping in close touch with the police, and he was calling to tell me what had happened. Deuce McCoy had been arrested. He'd been picked up at the airport trying to board a plane and was being taken to the city jail. I hung up the phone and told the three of them what Will had said. That touched off the fuse.
Arrested? Deuce has been arrested?
At the airport? I don't get it.
But you will get it, Walter. Deuce will talk. He'll spill the whole thing. And I think we'll be able to make a case against you and Hilda even without Mrs. Gramley's testimony.
Susan, was she with him? Is she all right?
Mrs. Gramley, Susan has been in my hotel room with Will Connors for the last... So that was the hold they had over you.
They told me this man Deuce had phoned her and tricked her into meeting him.
Susan doesn't trick so easy. She called me
Get
and
your
I...
hands up, Dollar.
Oh, now it's a little late for a gun, Walter. You won't find it any easier to run than Deuce did.
He's right, Walter. Let me think. There must be some way...
Let you think. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, and you thought us right into this.
Walter!
The airport. You know what he was doing? He was running out. The kid didn't show. He knew something had gone wrong, and he was taking a powder. And not even telling me.
There's no time now
Left us here holding the bag. And now you say, let me think. Why didn't you think before? It was your idea, cutting him in on this.
No, she's got a lot of cute ideas.
Nicky.
She's a real little brain.
What the devil are you doing here?
Slumming, Mr. Dollar. The door was open, so I walked in. You mind?
Look, whoever you
Look,
are.
watch, sucker. I've seen guns before. Why didn't you use it on them? When they were playing you for their number one patsy.
What are you talking about?
Deuce McCoy. And that little sneak you're married to there. You mean you still don't know?
She's lying, Walter.
Don't you wish I was? They had you right in the middle, sucker. Deuce was taking it away from you on the tables, and little Hildy was getting it back from him after hours. I'll bet they got a lot of laughs out of it.
Better hand over that gun, Walter.
It's true, isn't it, Hilda?
Of course not.
Take a gun to him, huh? Well, maybe it's not too late.
Walter, what are you going to do?
Give me the gun, Walter.
Sure. Why not? I don't need it now.
He killed her. His own wife. Stood right there and shot her down in cold blood.
Would you call the police, Mrs. Gramley?
Yeah, tell them to hurry right out. They can take me in on a real charge now.
I didn't mean for her to get killed.
You know something, Dollar?
No. Suppose you tell me.
That's the first big move I've made in the last 10 years. That Hilda didn't plan.
Expense account item 14, $305.20. Hotel and incidentals in Las Vegas and transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $596.45. End of account. Remarks? Well...
I can't figure out why she had to go messing around that way when she already had a man of her own, her husband. Of course, it didn't amount to much, but not many men do. What'd you expect to find in this world? Pearls in all her oysters? A turkey in her soup?
Well, that was Nicky, and that's the report. And that's life. Come to think of it, though, what isn't? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here's our star to tell you about next week's intriguing story.
Next week, Indestructible Mike. The most amazing character I ever met. A man with 9 lives at least. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Les Crutchfield, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Heard in our cast were Susan Whitney, Richard Crenna, Jeanette Nolan, Forrest Lewis, Inga Adams, Paul Richards, and Gene Tatum. Musical supervision by Amerigo Marino and Carl Fortina. Be sure to join us on Monday night, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
Oh, you will enjoy next week's shows. Yes, the indestructible Mike matter is hilarious. It is a serious crime, attempted murder. But nobody could kill indestructible Mike, portrayed by Howard McNear. You will find it to be a rollicking riot and a frightening crime story. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, next week. But right now, the yours truly, Johnny Dollar story wrapping up from June 1st, 1956. Thank you for joining us here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank this station, support their advertisers. Their kindness and courtesy allow us to be with you each and every time you roll around here on your favorite station. Miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. ClassicRadio.stream has all of our shows available on demand. Also a list of sites that have our shows available by a podcast. You can also find our social media links. You can learn how to build a classic radio collection of your own. And if you like what we do here, you can buy me a coffee. The Buy Me a Coffee money helps us acquire additional classic radio collections and keep our distribution channels up and running to your favorite station. ClassicRadio.stream. And thank you for tuning in. Tell all your friends the greatest radio shows of all time are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.